Hello and welcome to the Library News Podcast, your one-stop shop for all things new about the library and general library shenanigans. It's hosted by your social media team. My name is Eva. I'm the Library Learning Advisor at the London campuses.
Hello, my name's Paul. I'm the... What am I these days? I'm the Customer Service Librarian at both London campuses. Yeah, I know. Anyway, this is Annie. Hi.
Hi. So I'm Annie. I'm the Library Learning Advisor at the Manchester campus.
So, how's your month been, guys? How's it been since our fantastic Halloween episode?
Yeah, it's been fine. It's very November-y outside.
It's very windy and rainy at the moment.
It stopped raining like all week, which is quite depressing. And it's getting very dark, but it's getting to cozy season. So
I was gonna say it's been really cozy in the library.
Yeah,
At London,
it is very cozy. Like if it's gonna rain outside, a library's like the best place to be.
Definitely. At London, the 5th floor in Bloomsbury, I went up the other day to do some head counts, and you could just hear all the rain like going on the window, and I was just thinking it'd be so nice to study up there today.
I know, with a little tea.
Yeah.
It's divine.
Yeah, especially when it's raining outside and you've got a little bit of the heating on.
Yeah.
I'm actually thinking of we've got a tiny little TV which we don't use anymore. So I'm thinking of still putting that beside, like in the living room, because we just got radiators in our flat. So I'm just gonna like have that little TV in the corner, and I'm gonna put it on YouTube and just have like an open fire.
Oh my gosh, I had such a good one on yesterday. I'll send it you. I had it on my iPad. It was like a crackling fire and there's a storm outside. It was like one of those ambiance ones. I'll send it you because it was like 3 hours long. It was great.
That sounds perfect, yeah.
It was like thunder outside and then an old fireplace.
We're all about the cozy vibes, I think, at the library. So something that we mentioned a few episodes back was the Libby app, which is a fantastic resource, and I believe that Annie has been doing some work on it. So Annie, do you want to quickly share some library news?
I mean, that's what the whole podcast is for.
I know, I've completely regretted saying that.
It's fine. I mean, it is library news, like, it's not a lie.
Definitely.
Yeah, so I've been working alongside the acquisitions team, because they're basically trying to curate the leisure reading side of the library more. And this is basically through the ebooks and the audiobooks, which are available through the Libby app.
Oh, yeah.
So any student and staff, I mean, I use it as well. You can download the Libby app, and then it's like the Overdrive collection is available through Libby, basically. So we've had the Black History Month collection, and the next one that's coming is the Disability History Month collection. So that's what we'll be curating this month over the next few weeks, finding different titles on all things like ADHD, autism, like hidden disabilities, all of that kind of stuff will be available on there. So that'll be through either ebooks or audiobooks that you can either listen to or read free through the Libby app. So it's definitely worth downloading. It's really good.
Where can you find it?
Yeah, so if you go to the library service website, go to collections and then go to leisure reading at the top. There's a link there on how to download Libby, and you can get it for Apple or Android devices. And it looks like you can also get it on your PC or laptop as well if you didn't want to read on your phone. And you can get it on the Kindle as well, I think. So there's a lot of different methods to access the content.
It sounds like a very versatile application.
Indeed.
Indeed it is.
And if you want to learn more about the Libby app, we've got a bit of a feature, I think, in next month's newsletter.
And we've got a very special guest with us today, joining us, our first guest on the podcast, Joy Tilley, the lead librarian for partnerships and academic engagement. So Joy, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
So today Joy is going to go through some top tips for legal research. We're really aware that it's PLR season and many of you are getting ready to do some assessments. So we are picking Joy's brain for all her wise wisdom on legal research.
Okay, thanks, Eva. So I have now got my top tips for starting off researching for your PLR. So, and of course, many of these tips can also will apply to legal research in general. But so first of all, my main top tip is don't panic. Read the question carefully and calmly. I know it's easy to say, but panicking is not going to help you. So first of all, don't panic. Secondly, it's really important to understand that the PLR is not an academic essay. Now, you may previously obviously have written about law in an academic way where you have to examine the topic from all the different angles, whereas the PLR is very much about simply answering the question, working with doing your legal research as you would do in reality if you were working in a law firm. So it's, you know, can your client do a particular thing or can't they? Can something that you don't like be opposed? You know, for example, what can I do about a neighbour who is trespassing in my garden? Can I keep a wild animal in my garden as a pet? Those sorts of very specific questions. So with that in mind, it's really important that you analyse the question that you're being asked to research and make sure that you're clear about what the question actually is. Now here is at this point it's possible to go wrong because the question may not use the terminology that you need to use when you're searching for the information. So for example, you might be asked a question about brand protection. But brand protection isn't really the right phrase to use when you're doing research on that topic, because brand protection is usually about trademarks and protecting a trademark. So if you were going to search for brand protection, you'll get much better results if you actually search for trademark infringement. So you need to just think about what you're actually being asked to do and whether there is a better way or a more legal way that question might be expressed than the terminology used in the question, because the question may use colloquial terms. So that's one thing to be aware of. And another example of that is actually, I was once asked to find a definition of unroadworthiness, and I couldn't find it, and I didn't understand why. And in the end, I realised it was because there isn't a definition of unroadworthiness. There's a definition of roadworthiness. And again, if I had thought about it, I might have realised that. Now, apart from just thinking calmly and going through a list of alternative terms, you can also use legal dictionaries to help you with this, especially if you're new to an area of law. So legal dictionaries, which you can find, for example, I would recommend going to Westlaw and then using the index of legal terms. If you put in a particular term, you'll get a definition for it, and within that definition you may then get an idea of other terms that you may be able to use. So that can help you as well. So my next tip is to use the library databases. So that's for the PLR, that's Westlaw, Lexis Legal Research, also Lexis Practical Guidance, and also Practical Law. So those are what I call the big four databases. So it's really important you use those, because that is where you will find the answers. You do not need to go and Google the information, because when you're Googling, you don't necessarily know what you're going to be getting back. And also everything, I'm fairly certain that all answers to PLRs are contained within those big four databases. Now, my next tip is that it's a really good idea, if you're not an expert in a particular area of law, to start with what we call secondary sources. So that's something that writes about the topic rather than going straight to what we call primary sources, the cases and legislation. So go to, for example, a book on a subject or an encyclopedia called Halsbury's Laws that's absolutely brilliant for finding out about what the position is in a particular area of law, particularly for obscure areas of law. So that is the place that I would normally start. I'd try to find a book, or I'd use Halsbury's Laws. And you will also, how would you find authoritative books? I would recommend, rather than going through our library catalogue, I would recommend narrowing down the field and going straight to the books database on Westlaw and the books database on Lexis Legal Research, because those books collections are particularly authoritative and important, and often written by very famous legal experts. So you'll know you'll be getting the very highest level of information. Now, once you've done that, you could also use, as a starting point, Practical Law and Lexis Practical Guidance, which used to be called Lexis PSL. Now, the practice notes on both those databases are also really good starting points, but I tend to use those after I've looked at the books and Halsbury's Laws, because the books that you'll find on Westlaw and Lexis and Halsbury's Laws are, if you like, they're gold standard information. You can even, some of those sources, for example, Halsbury's Laws, you can even cite them in court. Whereas Practical Law and Lexis Practical Guidance are very, very well thought of, but they're not quite at that same standard. They haven't been around as long. So whilst they're very reputable and lawyers really like them, I wouldn't start off with them for a piece of legal research as an assignment. But you may find that you have to use them because, of course, you may not find the answer in the books or Halsbury's Laws. You may have to go and look at Practical Law, etc. But I suspect that you will find the answers that you need in the books and Halsbury's Laws. Now, if you're still struggling to find information after that, the next thing I would do is go to journals. And the reason why I wouldn't start with journals is that you don't know what you're going to get when you look in the journals database. It can be, you might find an article exactly on your point, you might find nothing because no one has ever written about it. So it's a bit hit and miss what you'll get. If you are going to look at journals, I really recommend you start with Westlaw, because the Westlaw Journals database is a portal for all journals written about UK law in the English language. So it has over 500,000 abstracts. It also has in full text over 100 journal titles as well. And that will then tell you, even if you maybe can't read the article in full text, it will tell you that it exists, and it will tell you if it's on one of our other databases. So very often you'll find the journal is in Lexis, because Lexis and Westlaw are rival publishers. So they don't publish each other's content. Right, so moving on to the end of my list of top tips, it's really important as well that I'm telling you to start off your research looking at a book or Halsbury's Laws. It's really important, though, that you don't just say, when you give your answer in the PLR, I found this book in this answer in Chitty on Contracts, I found it in Halsbury's Laws. The end result that you need to produce is, this is the piece of legislation that I'm relying on, or this is the case. So what we really want are cases and legislation on that point. So that's really important. And then finally, two things. First of all, if you need to, if you feel that you need to improve your legal research skills, you can check out our library workshops calendar. And if you want a recording of any of my legal research talks that I've given quite recently, you can email the library and they'll send you a recording and the slides. And you can also, you can ask the library any questions about, for example, how do I use Halsbury's Laws? But what you can't ask us is how you can use Halsbury's Laws to answer your particular scenario. So we're able to give you general help with the resources, but obviously not that subject-specific help. And I think that's it. I could talk for much longer on this, but I think that those are the main things I wanted to say.
No, that was great. Thank you very much.
So can you actually find examples of the PLR?
There should be an example of how to do a PLR in the workshop materials on Elite.
So apart from the PLR, and when you're doing legal research, when do you think is the best time to start doing the referencing process, and when can you where can you actually find more information about it as well?
So I think with referencing, what you don't want to do is save it up all until the last day of your assignment. So I would say it's better to do the referencing as you go along. Equally, that's sort of a hard question, because you don't want to spend ages creating a reference for something that you then end up not relying on because you found something better. So perhaps the halfway house is to understand what's required for a reference. So say, for example, if I think I might rely on a journal article, it's useful to have in my mind that I will need to have for my reference the authors, the title of the article, the name of the journal itself, the volume number, and the pages. So those if I've got a note of those, I don't then maybe have to go and formulate that so it's OSCOLA compliant, which is the system that we use for law, but I would just need all of that information, because what you don't want to be doing is running around just before you hand in your assignment trying to locate all the different pieces of information that you're going to rely on. So just make a note every time you find something you think, oh, I might be using this for my assignment. Just keep a note of the details, and that might seem tedious if you're in the throes of research, but it will actually save you time and stress a bit later on.
Tedious, but definitely worth it.
Yes. Yes. And then, of course, you can use all the excellent materials that we have on our library referencing page.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for telling everyone all the wonderful tips you have about legal research. It's definitely going to be helpful for our students.
Great, thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Have you enjoyed your podcast experience?
I have. It's been fantastic. Yes.
Great. We know you've got to go, so we'll let you fly.
Yeah, I'm now off to teach some referencing, so it's very good that you made me think about it. So thank you.
Bye, Joy.
Right, cheers. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
So as a lot of assessments are coming up, as well as the PLR, it's really important that you know where to find help when you need it. So the referencing guide can be found on the library website. If you scroll down, there's a big purple button there that says referencing guide. But if you'd like some more personal support from the librarians, you can also book a one-to-one. To do this, you can book a one-to-one appointment virtually if you go onto the library website, help and support, and click on appointments. Now, if you're regular listeners of the Library News podcast, you know that the social media team love making a Spotify playlist. And if you're regular users of the library and you want to get rid of your old boring study playlists, we've got lots of playlists that could be suited for you. We've got a calm playlist. We've got something called the epic playlist for more intense study sessions. What other playlists have we got, guys?
Well, before that, I think we should say we've been adding recently to the epic and the calm playlists. So you should, if you've been listening to them, we have been updating, and there's some good new songs on there.
Yeah, we don't just leave them. We're constantly reevaluating, putting some new ones on. So yeah, definitely keep checking back to see what's new.
So we do also have seasonal playlists. We've got our Halloween playlist, which you might want to listen to all year round, seeing as it was such a good playlist. I know I would listen to those songs any time of year.
Yeah, it's your baby.
It was excellent.
But obviously, Christmas around the corner, we are going to be creating our Christmas playlist. So watch out for that.
I'm so excited to make the Christmas playlist.
I can't wait for that as well.
So to explore all our weird and wonderful playlists, you can find them on the library news section of the website, which is within the Using Our Libraries page.
Also worth mentioning, if you haven't already, is the wealth of other podcasts. Obviously, this is your favorite podcast, but if you want to listen to other podcasts by the library team, then you've got one on art and the law, which was a very interesting listen. You've got one on grammar. You've got some study skills podcasts, on other study skills podcasts on there as well, and stuff on referencing, specific ones on referencing and research, and there's a employability podcast too. So there's lots to get listening to.
So I think that's us done for this podcast. Thanks everyone for being here to listen. We're going to go off and do some library work, but if you want to hear more from the library, get in contact with us on email or on our chat service, or of course you can always find us on Twitter as well at ULaw Library. See you later, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks. Cheers. Bye.